everybody, and welcome to the very first episode of CMN Chats. My name is Alexa Sandler. I'm a senior PRAD major, as well as a digital content assistant within the College of Communication, and I'm very excited to be hosting this brand new video series. So without further ado, I'm going to bring out our first guest, Lauren Russett.
Hello.
Hi, Lauren. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm a senior / transitioning into the graduate program because I'm doing the combined degree program. So it's my last official quarter as an undergrad, and then I'll be a full-time graduate student. I'm the DePaul PRSSA chapter president, and because of COVID, I moved back home to New York, so I'm no longer in Chicago.
Oh. So how did you get to studying PRAD and decide you wanted to do the combined degree program?
Studying PR was interesting because I didn't know what PR was. When I first got to DePaul, I kind of, after just from Googling, I was like, well, PR sounds like something I might be interested in. It's not necessarily marketing and it's not necessarily business. So I wanted to try to find some good combination. And then once I started in the PRAD program, I joined PRSSA. And then I kind of just got a little bit more insight onto what PR actually is, and that it does incorporate parts of business and parts of marketing, and all sorts of communication ends. And then transitioning a few months probably, I ended up meeting Ron Culp and Jim Motzer, all really kind of pushed the combined degree and why it's a good idea. And I knew I always wanted to get a master's. I didn't necessarily know if I was going to stay at DePaul or what my plan was, but the combined degree program just made it easy and it made the most sense to do it that way. So, yeah.
That's really awesome. Yeah. I think the combined degree program, so you're PRAD undergrad and PRAD in the combined degree program.
Yes.
So you're PRAD all the way.
Yes, but there was options where I could have done my master's in a different one, but I very much love the PRAD program here, so I don't believe.
Me too. Do you have any minors or any other interests that you're studying as well?
Yes, I have a minor in event planning.
Oh, cool.
My undergrad.
Very cool. You mentioned that you're president of PRSSA. So how has that been during COVID? And how have you handled, your education during COVID as well?
I definitely, the education side, I definitely struggled at the beginning. I still feel like I am with the online courses. However, PRSSA ended up pretty thriving, which is not something we kind of anticipated. We thought attendance would slow. We didn't think we would get as many members, but I think people now kind of have the chance to get involved, whereas they might not have really wanted to on campus, because it's easier to access the meetings. So PRSSA, it feels like we're operating normal. It's just all online. And we've kind of tried to adapt and try to create programming that people would want to spend their Monday nights at home, but online watching. So we had some really great guest speakers this past quarter. And then next quarter, we're planning for full virtual. So we're still trying to create that content that people are going to want to see, and then try to incorporate as much social media elements that people can engage with as possible.
What are some the resources that makes PRSSA something that a PRAD or PR student in general would want to join PRSSA for?
So some of the number one thing that I think we just started this quarter to kind of help us interact with everyone personally is we implemented a mentorship program. So all dues paying members were able to sign up, and it's basically just gives you time to schedule one-on-one meetings with the e-board and a mentor that's handpicked off of our e-board that has similar interests or a similar career path that they're looking for. We have the Express blog, which not only gets published on our website, it also gets shared across all our social media channels, which is followed by not just DePaul students, it's PRSSA, since it's a national organization as a whole. And we're pretty upfront with all of the other chapters, and a lot of people know of the DePaul chapter. just because usually we're really active in getting in working with national events or hosting conferences in the past. So the Express blog gets noticed by a lot of people. We also have a huge internship connection process. So if you're looking for certain internships or you're looking for a job after college, like there's a really good chance that we'll have somebody that you can at least talk to get your resume reviewed, your cover letter, do some mock interviews. And then also we have a compiled list of all these internships that are on their radar right now. Plus, your PRSSA membership gets you access to PRSSA National, which they have an incredible internship database for not just our area, for the whole country, plus a few other countries. So yeah, I think joining PRSSA is a really good idea if you're interested in learning more about what the day-to-day life, I mean, it changes every day in PR, but kind of just getting an idea of like some of the tasks and things that go on while also networking.
Yeah. So speaking of internships and resume building, we all know that experience and hands-on work is really key to building your resume and being able to get good work. Have you had internships during your time at DePaul? And like, what was that kind of the process of you seeking those out and making those something that were worth your while?
Yeah, so I did 2 or 3 internships the end of my freshman year. I did 2 my junior year or my sophomore year. And then my sophomore year ended up transferring into the beginning of my junior year. And all of them came from either networking at PRSSA events or just reaching out to, because I've always had a local small business focus. I've worked on some bigger accounts, some bigger brands that are on a more national level with bigger budgets, but I knew that the small business aspect was always going to be for me. So when I realized that, that's when I kind of started just pitching myself and like creating internships for myself, which isn't necessarily a common approach to the internship landscape. And it doesn't work for everyone. But I think the number one thing I noticed when applying and trying to track down internships is to 100% be yourself. You don't need to kind of make it seem like you know everything when interviewing, because you're interviewing to get a position that you can learn.
Right.
And I think the other thing would be to take opportunities that wouldn't necessarily, they might not seem the most fun, but the boring internships or the hard internships might end up teaching you the most. So you might not be in the most glamorous position, but as long as you're learning something and you're getting some sort of hands-on experience, it most likely will be beneficial in the end.
100%. I totally agree with you that no experience is bad experience. You always learn something from what you do. Something I'm really excited to talk to you about is your very own PR agency. I think it's so incredible that you've started your own. Like, that's super ambitious. Like, tell me more. Tell me the thought process. Like, I want to know everything. I'm gonna put your links down here so people can check out as well. But
thank you. So Russett PR kind of started in Chicago and then transformed when I moved back home. So I was doing freelance work, primarily in the real estate sector when I was in Chicago. And when COVID hit, I decided that I always knew I was going to own my own something. Didn't necessarily know what it was going to be. But I wanted to take the experience that I already had before COVID and kind of use it to my advantage with COVID, because communications ended up being something that was heavily needed during COVID. And so when I got back in end of March to New York, I'm in upstate New York. I realized that I didn't necessarily, at that time, I was like, I don't know how long I'm going to be here. I'm probably going to go back to Chicago, but either way, whatever I build here, I can take with me. Thinking I was going to go back, which I still might, who knows what's going to happen. But So I ended up just kind of repositioning myself. I launched a line of clothes. It was sweatshirts and hoodies and mugs, and I didn't realize that they were actually going to be for anybody else. I kind of just wanted it to make it for myself, and then PR Week picked it up.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up doing some crazy sales, and then I was like, okay, now I have a chance to like really promote my business.
Mm-hmm.
So now I work primarily with I don't like using the word small business, because a business to any business owner is a big business. Like,
Yeah.
it's their life, it's their livelihood. So a lot of local small businesses, but to help just really figure out what they're actually needing and what's authentic to their brand. Looking at their brand as a whole, not just, hey, I need a social media manager. Because a lot of the times, especially in the field and the businesses that I work with, it's not that they might not need a social media. They might need a full rebrand right now.
Mm-hmm.
Their brand might not be communicating as well as they might think it is. And I think it's also a matter of modernizing for a lot of the older businesses that I wanted to take into account, because when COVID hit, a lot of them had to turn digital, but they had no idea how to do that. So in June, I decided to move into an office space and kind of just give it my all, and here I am.
So exciting to have like a physical space for your agency, like super inspiring. Like, do you have plans for growth, like other offices, bigger? Like, how big is your company? Like, what are the goals for it?
My goals for it, I don't want to be too big, but obviously I won't say no. I'd like to hire someone at the end of 2021, full time. I do outsource anything that I don't really necessarily have the time for. I'd love to bring on a few remote interns. I'm not necessarily sure. I know that my number one goal is to help as many businesses that kind of look at PR and communications and social media as a daunting task that they don't necessarily know how to tackle, or they don't necessarily know who to call. But yeah, I know that I'd like to grow. Um, it's very hard to do both school and owning an agency, but definitely doable. And I think that's the number one thing to any DePaul student who's like, oh, I want to do my own thing, do it. There's going to be 100 people that are going to tell you that it's not a good idea, but just do it anyways. As long as you're dedicated, it's totally worth it.
It seems like you are very much dedicated to the hustle, that's for sure. But you touched on your merch line. Genius, by the way. So smart. Tell us a little bit about there you go, just following up mug. Tell us a little bit about like how that came about. Like, the amount of times I have used just following up in an email is ridiculous, and like you really tapped into that mindset of like the business person who's always on their email and whatever. And by putting on, like, tell us about it, because I think I need to buy a sweatshirt. I really do.
So I was like, I'm wearing a lot of sweatshirts and stuff, and I was working from home just like everyone else was, but I like felt like I needed something different. So I mean, it's a really simple design. I really didn't think anything would come up, and I was trying to think of anything that I say on a regular basis that I know I shouldn't be saying, because I feel like we all, as communications professionals, since we are always constantly having to follow up with people, it's just so easy to start the email with just following up, like, and try to like make it seem like we didn't say this to 30 other people today. So I was like, well, just following up. I mean, that's the number one. I mean, I say it in person now, like I say it so much. So I was like, well, I'm just going to put it in my brand colors and put it on a few hoodies, put it on my website. No one's going to buy anything. That's what my intention was. And then I posted it on Instagram, I posted it to Twitter, and then Diana Bradley from PR Week, it's her birthday today, messaged me and was like, hey, like, this is great. And I was like, really? Like, you like it? And then it kind of just escalated from there. And then I started getting sales and I was like, I was like, it's a great idea, but it was one of those things that it was a thought and I was like, no one's going to catch on to. So that's my other tip is just any of your random thoughts that you think no one's going to care about, just try it and see if it works. Cause you never know. And then, I got featured in PR Week. I got 2 articles. One primarily about the line itself.
Mm-hmm.
I donated a portion of all the sales to help with COVID relief. And then the second article was trying to figure out what the next phrase was. And that line is coming in December. So
Well, stay tuned for more. Wow.
it took a while because I was like, I don't necessarily know if I want to keep doing with the PR punny clothing. But then I was like, yeah, why not? So
why not? It's so on brand.
In December.
Well, that's really exciting. And I did not know that you were coming out with more merch. So I'm very excited to see that for sure. How did it feel to get featured in PR Week? That's a big deal.
It was one of those things where I still haven't really got over it. It was nice because I was able to put get DePaul's name out there and really amp up what DePaul's, because my PR career would be pretty much nothing without DePaul. So I told her that during the interview. I was like, make sure you add DePaul in there. And it's still so weird. I'll still just go back and read the article every once in a while, and it's just one of those days. Because I was also in their email. So my aunt, who works at Ogilvy in California, got a notification in her email, and she sent it to me, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so cool!" And so it was definitely a cool feeling. I've worked with brands to get them featured in publications like Fast Company and stuff like that, and it's so different when it's you. It was really cool feeling. So now I get why everyone gets super excited. Like all these clients get super excited when they're like, "Oh my gosh, we got featured in this."
Yeah,
it's a cool feeling. So
for sure. And you mentioned that, DePaul, you give, a lot of your credit to the PRAD program there for your success. Is there a favorite memory, experience, professor, class that really shaped you or had an impact on your PR life?
I definitely could go on that list forever. I think that obviously the most impactful for me was joining PRSSA and the events and the opportunities that led me to. So through PRSSA, I've been able to go to Austin, Texas and San Diego for PRSSA national conferences. And we've been able to present, last year, we presented a Mean Girl skit that was super fun, all about networking, getting that internship, personal branding. And PRSSA, our chapter, has hosted the 3 years that I've been at DePaul. Each year we've hosted a conference on campus that brings not just DePaul students out, but people from all around the region. Or even as far as the first year I was at, we did one. There were people from Texas there because of how quality the DePaul program is and how great our chapter is for PRSSA. The New York Way program, obviously it's a little different landscape right now. That with Jim Motzer was fantastic. Jim Motzer, unfortunately he's retired now, but also just an all-star professor. Juliet Stans from Research Methods.
Love her.
Also our new PRSSA advisor. And then I'd have to give Matt Regis a huge shout out. His entrepreneurship class is super fun. Highly recommend registering for it. I think those are the top highlights. Oh, I did Bateman.
That's very exciting.
Bateman was a really great experience. My team was the team that got an honorable mention. But that whole experience just gives you the full look at doing a PR campaign from start to finish, from the very beginning, creative brief, to creating the final document. Was super fun, super rewarding, and a great portfolio builder.
So we got a couple of questions on Instagram last week. So we already kind of touched on one of your most fulfilling PR experiences, but has there been a best PRSSA moment or event that really helped students or helped you or that was super memorable?
I think for PRSSA, my most memorable event would be my first visit to the Chicago Blackhawks. Because when I first moved to DePaul or moved to Chicago and I first started here, I thought I would go into the sports realm.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up finding out it wasn't necessarily my passion. However, I moved to Chicago because of the Blackhawks. Because when I was younger, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a huge Blackhawks fan. Went to Chicago to visit, and I was like, yeah, I'm meant to be here. So the first visit to the Blackhawks and meeting the team that does everything that the fact that their social media manager and like director of social media is a DePaul alum, and like giving that kind of like meeting those people were just really just rewarding and just really cool to see the back end side of something that I grew up being so passionate about. So yeah, I definitely think that the Blackhawks visit was definitely my favorite.
That's really cool. Yeah,
All of our conferences.
What was that?
All of our conferences were super great, super informative, and then just being able to go in and out of all of these agencies was just really a great experience.
Yeah, really get to see it firsthand for sure. Well, that is all the questions I have. Is there any other advice, tips you have for students, freshmen, senior, likewise, as trying to get their foot in the door in the PRAD world?
Say yes to opportunities, no matter how interesting or weird they might be. If you join PRSSA, that's my shameless plug. We will have e-board positions available at the end of this year. And just also put your mental health first. I feel like right now burnout culture is super, like everyone wants to seem how busy they are, but it's okay to take a step back. It's okay to realize that it's finals week and you don't have to do everything. I mean, I still am really bad at delegating. My lifesaver from start to finish is Natalie Roman, our executive vice president for PRSSA. So yeah, I think the number one thing, I think like the biggest thing I would say is just to make sure that you're not overstressing yourself and your abilities right now, because that's taking away from your creative freedom and ability to really think outside of the box.
Most definitely. Well, I want to thank you for being our first guest on the chats. I'm going to have your links here. Make sure you follow on social media. Thank you so much. Congrats on all of your success so far, and I'm really excited to see your future successes and your new merch line in December.
Yes. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, take care.
Thank you.